Tonight on ITV, Sir Trevor McDonald and a guest and a team of investigators tell us the story of how their television documentary led to one of Britain's most famous criminal cases being reopened for the first time in 27 years.
Well, before we talk to Sir Trevor about tonight's Fred and Rose West documentary, here's a reminder of the case that shocked us all.
Trevor joins us now, and it's lovely to have you here this morning.
Thank you. It's
and
great to be here.
This is a story that you know all too well. I mean, when you were reporting on the news at 10, imagine when this story was breaking, you report about extraordinary, some horrific stories.
It was a great shock to us all.
Yeah.
And the number of people who were involved, the number of victims and possible victims. I mean, that was the thing, because as that clip showed, you know, we know some of the names, but there are perhaps many others that we don't know about. And that is what, you know, that's why the fascination about it continues.
Yeah.
Successful because husband and wife, that lured people in.
I mean, this is one of the things I discovered. One of the points is you thought you knew everything about the story.
Yeah.
And the joint nature of what they did, you know, for example, if Fred West, who trolled around looking to pick up young girls, went on his own, it would be difficult. But if Rose West was sitting in the passenger seat in the front, the young women, you know, felt it was probably safe because there was a woman in the car. And, in fact, it was not. No. She was there, you know, to help the process of getting these young people into the car.
And
it was
so,
awful.
Oh, it's so horrible. And the documentary that investigates tonight, that there could be further victims that we don't know about at all. And part of this, when you were looking into it, was that Fred West worked across the country. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just in this one area that we know about.
That's right. We concentrated a lot on 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucestershire and thought this was where it all happened. And somehow that became the focus. But Fred West worked around the country. He was in Bristol, he was in Birmingham, he was further up north, and you know, he worked. We talked to his employers. He was a very good worker for this contracting firm, but went around the country, and so many more people involved. And you know, to the point you made about you know, the way he operated, it was very clear that you know, everywhere he went, that there were, you know...
Well, I mean, explain the role of Janet Leach, who was his appropriate adult.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So you've got hold of papers that were previously unreleased papers.
That was the interesting bit about it. He talked to this appropriate adult, and he talked at great length. And you could imagine Fred West in prison and getting this lady to listen to his stories. And he probably, I mean, you know, embellished them a little bit, but yet he gave significant facts about what he'd done. And he talked about these fields where people might have been buried, where more people might have been buried. And he talked a lot to Janet Leach about what he did.
And the farm.
And the farm. And we went to the farm, and the directions to the farm were given quite precisely to his son. And following what his son said to us, we found the field, and some excavations have been done, you know, ground-penetrating radar and the cadaver dogs and so on. And there is evidence that, you know, some people might be buried there.
We've got a little bit of that of the documentary discovering that farm.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was watching that, chilling, and you said
well, he was very boastful to the appropriate adult and talking about these people. And for us, one of the things, you know, the police did a good job in trying as far as they could, but it looks as though there's more to be done, because there are relatives of victims or possible victims who are still searching for answers. You know, Mary Bastholm, who was 15 when she just disappeared, having worked in a cafe in Gloucestershire.
Well, this was key, wasn't it, actually, this one, to the investigation, because you were trying to link missing persons case to his movements, and she was working in a cafe that we know that he frequented. More than that he was actually doing some work in the basement.
And he was working there.
And the times tie up. Yeah,
and we found... rather chilling. We found the basement where he worked. Yeah. And there are people who connect West to Mary Bastholm, not in any great significant way, but they were both in the cafe where she was a waitress. She was only 15 and she just vanished. And it's not really right that people should just disappear from the face of the earth. Luckily, you know, there were others who saw that there was something which needed to be done about this and have, you know, started petitions and so on to make sure that there's some account of what happened to this young lady.
Well, I think it's episode 2 of the documentary that you go into what was actually found in that basement. But you firmly believe that in, I think it's letterbox
Farm.
field on the farm,
On the field.
that there could be other victims there. Now, nobody can start digging until the police reopen that part of the investigation. Do you think that will ever be reopened, considering how big a farm is, how many people would be needed to excavate something?
Yes, well, I hope so. And the police have been, you know, they responded very well to some of the discoveries that we have made. And I think that they will continue to do so. Because, as I said, the fact remains that there are people there who are waiting for answers about what happened to their loved ones. In the case of Mary Bastham, for example, I spoke to her aunt, a brother who died, not knowing what had happened to his sister. And these things, you know, need some answers.
And you're working on other crime documentaries too. I know one that's in the making at the moment is the story of PC Andrew
I see
Harper.
you're associating me with all this crime.
I know. Well, you seem to keep doing, which we love because you're so brilliant at it. But this, I mean, this is another, I mean, heartbreaking story, particularly for his wife that he left behind so young.
Yes, this is the story of Andrew Harper,
Yeah.
PC Andrew Harper, who was dragged along. He got caught in a rope and was dragged along a country lane, and you know, the description of what happened to him. You know, his body armor first was lost, and then, you know, what they found at the end of this journey. And the police did a sort of reconstruction about what possibly went on, and thought that it was not possible that the people who were taking him along, you know, dragging him along behind the car, could not have known that somebody was caught in this.
Yes.
You know, you couldn't have been unaware of it. Yeah, so the wonderful thing about that is that his wife, Lissy Harper, they'd been married for 4 weeks, I think.
him.
And he was on the way home and had finished his shift and responded to an emergency call about a burglary. So that this should not have happened, really. And she is mounting a campaign to have people who are responsible, deemed to be responsible for, you know, the death of a policeman or the death of people in the emergency services should be more significantly punished, if that's the word.
Well, that is a tragic,
sure.
tragic case. So that's a documentary pending. We'll see that soon. But in the meantime, Fred and Rose West Revealed is tonight at 9 on ITV. And thank you, Sir Trevor. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you so much.
As always.
Great to see you.
Pleasure.
Thank you
Great
very
to be
much.
here. Thank you for having me.